Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of A Year in the Bible podcast with the Daily Grace Company. My name is Kyra, and I'm a writer on staff. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. We are discussing Deuteronomy chapters 19 to 21. These chapters showcase God's concern for justice. Biblical justice reflects God's righteous and compassionate character. The laws in these chapters also show God's desire for his people to pursue just living. First, through Moses, the Lord tells the people to set apart cities of refuge in the Promised Land. These cities were supposed to be places where those fleeing unjust treatment could go, specifically those who had committed manslaughter and needed protection from someone seeking revenge. In this case, the person who committed manslaughter did not have malice in his heart, so he did not deserve to be punished. Instead, he should be protected from harm. The Israelites performed justice by protecting the vulnerable and caring for them. Another area where the Israelites were to protect the vulnerable was in legal proceedings. God knew there would be people who would be falsely accused of a crime. He told the people to pursue careful investigation so that they could discern the truth from the lie. If one was justly accusing, they were to be punished for the crime. The false accuser intended to commit an act of harm towards one who did not deserve it and was to receive the punishment he intended to inflict on the other. A third area where the Israelites reflected God's grace and justice was in wartime rules during conflicts with faraway nations. The Israelites were to make offers of peace with these groups, but if the nation refused, the Israelites had to enact God's punishment and defend itself from enemy attacks. The army would be destroyed, but they were to preserve the nation's city and its inhabitants. These included the most vulnerable members of that nation. The Lord showed his care for women on the opposing side. Women conquered by other nations became slaves, but God commanded the Israelites to not treat these victims so unjustly like the pagan nations around them. No, the captured women would be given time to mourn, and after her time of grieving, she would be taken as a wife, not a slave. In this way, God commanded the man who married her to dedicate his life to her well-being and protection. As sinners, we are guilty of rebelling against God's law. We have at times built up malice in our hearts towards others and God, making us the same as the revenge seeker that we talked about and the false accuser that we mentioned earlier. We have turned a blind eye to those in need of help and ignored the injustice of oppressors. We need a righteous Savior to save us from our injustice. That Savior was Jesus Christ. He perfectly obeyed and loved the Lord, and his saving work forgives us of sin and covers us in his righteousness. In Jesus, we have a safe haven, safe from the pursuits of spiritual evil. We are protected against the accusation of Satan, for Jesus advocates on our behalf. And instead of remaining slaves to sin, we come into a beautiful union with Jesus and receive the inheritance of his obedience. With his indwelling spirit, let us seek justice in our communities to convey the accomplishment of our just God and his grace towards us. Thank you for joining us today. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and are excited to come back tomorrow, will you kindly take a minute to leave us a rating or review on iTunes? This will help more people find the show. We look forward to talking with you tomorrow.